Busy day in the world of sports today, and let's start up there in the city of brotherly love, or not. The city of brotherly something, I suppose. Thank you. The city of brotherly love, where your girlfriend's favorite quarterback, and let's be honest, mine too, Jaylen Herz and Nick Sirianni, seems to be that they do not necessarily agree with one another. Seeing quotes from this ESPN article written by Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, saying it was a breath of fresh air as the season ended, and both of these guys, Nick Sirianni and Jaylen Herz, after the Philadephia Eagles went on a roller coaster ride of a season. It went up, 10-1, and then right down into the plunge. Said that the relationship with Nick Sirianni and Jaylen Herz is one that had grown problematic throughout the time, and it was all types of stress, all types of issues, and now offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is supposed to, quote, bridge the gap between the two. And his story ends saying, will they go to dinner together? Hell no. But it can be a good working professional relationship, and I don't think that it's hatred. I'm going to break this down real quick, guys. I'm of the belief, if you look at Jaylen Hertz's football life, coached by his dad at Robert E. Lee High School, Averion, I believe his dad's name is, but dad, high school football coach, who actually coached Brian Johnson, the previous offensive coordinator for the Philadephia Eagles, before Kellen Moore took the job. You look at his college career, coached by Nick Saban. We all saw him yesterday on Hard Knocks talking about quarterbacks and expectations and so forth, talking about Caleb Williams, but we all know him as pretty much at this point the GOAT coach in college football and all the coaches that he had on his staff. Then you look where he transferred to. After, mind you, being benched in the national championship game for Tua Tagovailoa, after being benched at halftime of the national championship game. For a team in Alabama that, let's be honest, maybe would have won the game anyway. Would have got benched at halftime, showed, nothing but class, nothing but cheering on his teammates. There is no sulk. There is no complaining. There is no bitching out of Jaylen Herz in that moment. He claps and pats his fellow man on the back. Then he transfers to Oklahoma, where he plays for Lincoln Riley, who knows a thing or two about quarterbacks. Just look around the league. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams now, Jaylen Herz. Knows a thing or two. Those guys all in New York for the Heisman ceremony. Jaylen Herz knows what this is supposed to look like. He has been surrounded at every step of the way with a winning culture. He has been surrounded at every step of the way with alpha male dominant head coaches. And maybe you want to say Kellen Moore. You want to say Lincoln Riley is more of an offensive-minded coach, but still, nonetheless, he controls that side of the ball with aplomb. Enter in Nick Sirianni, who's doing fly Eagles fly at people, who's talking, a head coach that needs a hold-me-back guy in Big Dom. Jaylen Herz knows what this is supposed to look like, and he knows that Nick Sirianni may not necessarily be that guy. Now, what does he do? Does he complain? Does he go to the media? No, now we're reading this now, but this is a training camp story from what happened last year. They were 10-1 at one point in the year. Whole time the slide is happening. You don't see much out of Jaylen Herz in terms of complaining about head coaches, not complaining that his offensive coordinator got demoted, not complaining that there's a new defensive coordinator, not complaining about any of it. Just goes to work. Jaylen Herz, again, if he can succeed in an environment led by Nick Saban, in an environment led by Lincoln Riley, then I feel like there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to succeed with a high-level NFL coach. Nick Sirianni's resume says he's a high-level NFL coach, but to me, his emotional capacity says something different. The head coach is supposed to be the leader in the clubhouse. The head coach is supposed to be the adult in the room. There can be more adults than just the head coach, but he's got to be one of them. The buck stops, responsibility stops with the head coach. So when Jaylen Herz sees all that acting crazy, I got it. Jalen Hurts sees all that acting crazy. You know, I get it. When I'm Jalen Hurts, and you know we get right now, we get Chris Broussard back in the fold. Chris, what's going on, baby?
My apologies to you, to everyone else. There was an accident. I know this sounds like the dog ate my homework, but he didn't. There was an accident on the highway that delayed everything, and that's why I'm a few moments late, but I'm glad to be here. So it sounds like, Martin, you are putting all the blame for the supernatural funk, is what I've termed it, that Philadelphia fell into last season. You're putting it all on Nick Sirianni?
I am putting the lion's share of it of Nick Sirianni, but the reason why, Chris, just in case, I'll summarize it for you in a quick 10 seconds. Jalen Hurts has had so many great coaches throughout his football life that it seems to me that he should know what a great coach looks like. And I think that he's, seeing that Nick Sirianni may not be one.
Well, yeah, he certainly has some great coaches. And I do put the lion's share on Nick Sirianni for the problems in his relationship with Jalen Hurts because he's the head coach.
Yep.
He is the older man, and, you run the organization, or the team at least. And he admitted himself that he was to blame for last season and that he didn't give the players enough say. And a big part of, and we're talking about the article that was on ESPN.com that revealed all the inner workings of the relationship. And last year was a poor relationship between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, which is really why that team fell apart. But he was too hands-on last year and didn't let the new OC, Brian Johnson, kind of have the offense. And he was too much, looking over things, too involved. But this year, Martin, he has stepped back, at least according to the article, and now he's more hands-off. And he said that he was going to let whoever, this is before they hired Kellen Moore as the new offensive coordinator, whoever it is, he's going to let him have the offense.
Well, real quick, who's the one who made the hire? Was it Howie Roseman or Nick Sirianni?
No, I'm sure it was probably the GM, Howie Roseman.
Yeah.
But I think Sirianni, is letting Kellen Moore do his thing. And he is not as involved, which I think is good. Here's one thing I will say, and I'm not a Nick Sirianni fan. I'm not a Nick Sirianni hater. It is what it is. I'm not pulling for, I don't pull for him, pull against him. Like, he is what he is.
Yeah.
I do think, though, you have to give him credit. So far, he has proven to be, at least so far, he looks like a good coach. They had won 4 games before he got there that year, and he quickly leads them to a 9-8 record. Then the Super Bowl appearance, and what were they, 3 points away from winning that? And then last year, obviously, they still at least made the playoffs and won 11 games. And so I believe that's why they didn't fire him, largely because his track record was, hey, he turned the team around. He got it going in the right place. And I do think, look, I get Jaylen having legitimate concerns, but Jaylen also has to be honest, and he's smart enough to recognize this. I'd imagine he has. His whole career turned around under Nick Sirianni. He went from being a quarterback that many people thought was a career backup, if that, like a guy that couldn't throw well enough to play in the NFL consistently, to being an MVP candidate and playing great in the Super Bowl. So I do think, and I hope, and I think he's mature enough, Jalen Hurts, to also look in the mirror and recognize it. This dude has helped me. I might not agree with everything he does. His over-the-top personality might get on my nerves, but brother has helped me. And I've flourished under him. So I just think that's the mature way you look at it. And if they do that, if Sirianni indeed takes a step back, and if Jaylen looks in the mirror, because Jaylen got to become, you talked about it in the article too, Martin, a better leader, more vocal, sometimes confront guys. It seems like he he clearly is a solid, high character guy.
Yep.
But he does seem to not want to kind of confront or, like he seems more like the lead by example type. Y'all just follow me. I'm going to do the right thing and we'll be good. And I'm in high school and college where he's very good and his teammates certainly in college were very good. That might be fine. They're better than their competition for the most part. But now in the pros, he's going to have to stretch himself too. And so if they do that, I do think they move past it, Martin, because the fact that why did this article just come out? I mean, we were waiting for this, right? A few weeks after the season.
If this was the NBA, we would have had this as Tampa scored the last touchdown and the clock was ticking down.
Maybe. Because the people that talked did not want to give up the information. Why? Because it wasn't done. They didn't know that they were ever going to get through the relationship issues. The people I believe they talked to people in the Eagles organization. I mean, that's what they said. And I think at the time, like months ago, when they're still wondering, man, are we going to survive this? Is Sirianni going to survive this? That they kept their mouths shut. And I believe now they were willing to talk about it, Martin. This is my opinion, because they've moved past it. If you're in a relationship and you went through a tough time, you're more willing to talk about it once you get through it and you've overcome it than you are in that moment. And I think that was the issue, and that's why this thing just come out. We all been wondering what the heck went wrong last year, and it just comes out now? I think that's because the people that talked feel like we got through it. So now, we can share it.
I mean,
and put it behind.
You're on to something there, but I think that the premise to your point that I think you skipped over, maybe conveniently, maybe accidentally, is that's when you have a good relationship to start with, right? Then you get into a rough patch, and then you can come on the other side. If you're ambivalent about each other beforehand, and then all of a sudden you have all these negative moments, it takes a lot more than just, hey, we're going to work on this to get back to where you can even get to a positive spot. Where was the sign
that they were ambivalent beforehand? They went to the Super Bowl and Jaylen became a star.
Yeah, but
they got nearly $300 million because it's the way Sirianni was coaching the team.
Yeah, he's also telling Sirianni to quit doing the Fly Eagles Fly and all this other stuff in the midst of all of that. Right,
yeah,
so
I just some of that. Again, they're completely different personalities.
I think that's the real rub here, is that they're very different people.
But you can be an odd couple and have success. Hey!
Oh,
all right, it is the odd couple.
That's what he was working on for that 7 minutes he was missing.
There you go. All right.